Well, what is going on, everybody? Welcome everybody into the Overreaction Buffalo Sports Show on the Overreaction Sports Network, presented by FanDuel. My name is Joe Miller, and you can find me on Twitter at Joe Miller Wired, alongside my co-host, former left tackle, franchise left tackle for the Buffalo Bills, John Fina, and you can find him on Twitter at John Fina. Please do us a favor. Please like. Please subscribe, whatever platform you are consuming this presentation on right now. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We would greatly appreciate it. It is so good to have all of you here. John Fina, the Buffalo Bills have, I think, for the most part, finished their collective coaching hires, which we'll go through here in a second. But
it looks like half of Erie County got signed to the coaching staff. And this list is longer than my arm.
We'll go through that in a second. Before we do, how are you, my friend?
Busy, Joe. Very, very busy, as you know. Big event coming on Friday.
I've been rehearsing. So, yes, I am very much aware as well. Excited to see you this week. Excited to see Jerry Ostrowski this week. Jerry, who is not joining us this evening as he's traveling with his family out having fun. Welcome to everybody in the comment section who is joining us live right now. I tried to retweet it, but it didn't work for some reason. Are you able to retweet the show? Just curious.
I don't know. When you get out here, you can give me a lesson. I think I've done it a couple of times.
It doesn't populate anymore. So it doesn't so we've got the red circle.
Crazy because we're so popular.
No. Like, it's got the red circle that it's live, but it doesn't give you the actual post to retweet, which is like a new feature for Twitter, which is annoying. So I might just remove it from Twitter altogether. We'll see. Well, anyways, before we get into the coaching stuff, I figured it made sense to maybe hit some of the dates for the league year.
Okay.
Yeah, what do we got? February 17th is where we're at. That's what's coming next. Beginning on this date through 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, March 3rd, clubs may designate franchise or transition players. Do you see anybody on this roster that is worthy of a franchise or a transition tag, John Fina?
Well, I think you got to be in the last year of your deal to make that even make sense, right?
Correct.
So
yeah, they have to be an unrestricted free, going into being an unrestricted free agent.
Yeah, I don't think we have any of those that we would use that designation for. Nobody comes to mind.
I mean, it would be, center? So, right? I mean, it's Connor McGovern, it's David Edwards. I don't have an up-to-date list of who all the free agents are. I don't know that there's anybody that we're overly worried about losing, right?
Well, I don't agree with that, but I think afford to keep is a bigger challenge than afraid to lose. But yeah, Connor McGovern, David Edwards, those would really be the only candidates, on the offensive side of the ball that would continue to give you, that cohesiveness that we've had up front that we'd have enjoyed for a couple of years now at least. But I don't know that you want to spend that kind of money, given what we'll talk about with the cap. So
it feels like it's a very I understand why teams did it, right? So anytime you're in a situation where you can't come to terms, the player, and you're a player, I mean, you could speak to this. I think you held out for a very brief amount of time. I'm not exactly sure you can clear that up. That's just for some reason I feel like that happened. It's when the player is looking for something and the team is looking for something else, can't really come together. The team doesn't want to let player go. So, they developed this franchise transition tag which is an amalgamation of the top, I think, 5 salaries for the position that the player is in. That's what they
how
get.
I understand it.
Yeah, that's what they get for 1 year. Only 2 players were franchise tagged last year. The last time the Buffalo Bills franchised a player was 2016, Cordy Glenn.
Well, so before I got to the NFL, all there was Plan B, and players really just had no ability to earn. Right? There was no parity between ownership and labor. So, I think there was, obviously the Players Association, what they did is they went out and raised a lot of money through dues, and then they were able to go to the owners and say, you can't wait us out on lawyers' fees anymore. We can fight the fight now. So they were able to get into this position, and the owners would say, well, we want to be able to retain our players, and the players want to be paid. So that I guess whatever you want to call it, negotiation ended up with the average or somewhere near the average of the top 5 players for that position. And I think by and large, players appreciate that. I think it's a good thing. I know for me, I didn't want to leave Buffalo. I certainly wanted to get paid, but the idea of leaving really was not that exciting or interesting to me. So it did two things, right? It kept me there and it got me paid.
Right.
And the Bills got what they wanted. They got continuity on the offensive line, reliable, I'd like to think, someone who was not injured much. And I think it worked out in the end, especially with the prism of today's dollars, right? They'd love to go back and sign Dion or Spencer for the money I made. That'd be hilarious.
Very good.
So, no, I don't think that with respect to Connor McGovern and David Edwards, we can do that, because if you just do a cursory search, I think the closest one we could probably get to would be Connor McGovern. I think that the average of the top 5 or 6 centers in the league right now is still somewhat approachable to something that you might pay Connor McGovern, but the guard numbers are out of sight.
Right.
And I went and kind of looked at, some rankings of the top free agents in the marketplace, and I just went through it for any position, just stacked ranked. And there are so few guards and centers that are coming to be free agents at this time, which is really bad for the Buffalo Bills to sign those guys.
It was interesting to me. Why? Sorry, go ahead.
Well, because if there's few available and they are in the top, which they are, they're in the top, 2 to 4 at their position, then demand is high, which means their salaries, those contracts are going to be really big. So if you want to keep Connor McGovern and you think that the franchise tag works well with your salary cap, I would go there. But I probably wouldn't do it with Edwards, considering how many reps that Alec Anderson has taken, and you've got Chase Lunt also developing, Tylen Grable. So I think that's probably a smarter play if you want to keep the center.
I was surprised to hear that the going rate for Connor McGovern's $20 million a year, and David Edwards is 26. I feel like Connor McGovern is the better player of the two. Do you agree with that?
I would put them at about even. I don't think either one edges the other one out. I would say last year Connor McGovern was a better player, but I don't feel like he played as well as he did last year. And David Edwards actually, minus a handful of snaps that were just, and like I say, atrocious, only because I'm allowed to, because, every now and again I see a throwback Thursday stream or rep of me playing tackle, and I'm like, oh my God, that was like horrible. So David Edwards had a few this year that were just kind of head scratchers, but by and large, I'd stack them as about the same.
Well, it goes back to what you and Jerry talk about all the time. You guys play 60 snaps. You have 2 bad ones, and all anybody thinks about are the 2 bad snaps, not the other 58 where you owned your opponent. It's just the 2 bad snaps, right? So just kind of the unfortunate way that it goes for the offensive line. But looking back to the date, so that is where we're at currently. I would expect the Bills, as you do, to not franchise or transition tag anybody. February 23rd to the 2nd, the NFL Scouting Combine at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis, which I would love to go to that someday. Jerry,
you'd probably be bored stiff.
That'd be fun. It'd be interesting. March 3rd, prior to 4 p.m. deadline, clubs that designate franchise. And then March 9th and the 11th. I don't know why March 3rd is even in there. March 9th through the 11th, I believe, is the official NFL tampering period. March 11th at 4 p.m., teams are allowed to sign free agents from other teams. They obviously can sign their own free agents up to that point, I think, at any point in time. March 29th through April 11th, the annual league meeting in Phoenix. And then what do we got? April 6th.
Draft.
Yeah, the draft is after that, which I'm looking for. Right there, April 23rd through the 25th, NFL draft in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So which you're going to be a little bit on edge for that draft, John Fina.
Well, I'll certainly be watching it. I think Bruno really did himself some credit through his performance this season, and additionally at the Hula Bowl where he played guard and center. The problem is a lot of the hype for players is really based on, accolades and this kind of thing. And sometimes you scratch your head and you're like, why is that guy considered so high? And then why is that guy not considered to be a very, highly draftable player? Yeah. And then, of course, then we get the draft. And then 2 years later, you start looking back, or sometimes even 1 year later, and you think to yourself, how the hell did that guy get drafted in the first, second, or third round? Right?
Yeah.
So it is the ultimate crapshoot. It's literally close your eyes, go to Vegas, roll the dice, hope you get the right guy, the right attitude, the right fit, the right effort. And, he blossoms into a hell of a player over the next 3 years. But Bruno's looking for a shot at the league. He'll get signed. Yeah. And then, one of the upsides for Bruno is if he doesn't get drafted, then you can kind of self-direct. If you got 5, 6, 7 teams that want you, you can go and look at that roster and look at the age of the player, the injury history, the previous season, how many different guard center combinations did they have? Where is the best camp for you to go to compete for a job, rather than, well, Bruno Fina's the best guy on our board and he's available now. We don't really need an offensive lineman. We're just going to pick best player available. And then you end up in a camp where you have a really hard time making a team.
Yeah.
Secondly, it's a good thing to be an undrafted free agent if you make the team, because then you're on a 3-year deal and then you get a tender that you can shop around the league. But if you're drafted 4, 5, 6, or 7, you're locked in on a 4-year deal. So if you're in this business to make money, Joe, which you ought to be.
Well, I'm not in this business. Not this. If you're in the business of football, not the podcasting business.
So we expect Bruno will sign with the right team. Hopefully, just one plane flight from Tucson instead of 2.
Well, you just cornered yourself, because here I'm thinking like how great it would be to have him in Buffalo, which is a one-stop flight, right? It's not a non-stop. Is that what you're saying? You want a one-stop, not a 2-stop? Gotcha. Or no?
So the caveat is, I told Bruno, you can play for the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah.
Obviously, you can play for the Carolina Panthers, because your brother's going to be in Duke for another 4 years.
Yeah.
And then, please God, just a direct flight that gives you like 11 or 12 teams to choose from.
So I'm actually kind of hopeful that, he ends up a Buffalo Bill, because then we can kind of do that, like the overreaction free agent maneuver, and we can move you on and have the off tackle with Bruno Fina show. What do you think of that?
That's fine. I still get residuals, right?
We're going to pull the Bill Belichick and move on from John Fina a couple of years early to get Bruno Fina.
You better make me a good offer, Joe.
Oh, yeah. How much is 50 cents plus nothing? Let's see. The Buffalo Bills have filled out, for the most part. There might be a couple extra surprises as it pertains to coaches and coaching staff, but they've filled out their coaching staff. Before we get into some of these names that nobody's ever heard of, the Bills announced this past week that they have signed John Fox as the senior assistant coach, which, John, my feeling about that, not overly about John Fox, because I believe he coached the Panthers in a Super Bowl once, right? Yep. It isn't about the man necessarily or his resume. I felt like, I don't remember who I was talking to, if it was you and Jerry, or if I was on another show. I felt like Joe Brady needed some sort of a stately, been around for a long time, former head coach to kind of keep, not structure. I think Joe's going to have plenty of structure there.
Structure is the right word.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, perfect. So
you're absolutely right. Running a team, it's more things than you think, right? You don't just show up, watch film, do installation, go out to practice. I mean, all of that is scripted. So every week when we went to the locker room, I knew exactly where I was supposed to be every minute of the day from 8:25 till 4:30. And that's super important because, and, at the risk of disparaging somebody, my last coach in Buffalo had the worst structure. So you had no time to get between meetings, get to treatment, get to lunch, get to the field. And you were always, and you had like a ridiculous amount of weird downtime in the middle of the day. So nothing flowed properly.
Right.
And that just causes more frustration. You just have guys sitting on their hands. These young guys want to go boom, boom, boom. That you need to direct them. They need to be in a spot. So I think that's actually a really smart hire. Yeah. And he's going to have all kinds of insight in helping Joe Brady structure all the practice stuff, all the secondary things that have to go, between management and coaching, football and media, football and PR. There's going to be a hell of a lot of things. And if you can have somebody, at the top of the funnel, making sure that it gets winnowed down, what's really important, what things have to get done, how should they get done, and what time frame, that'll be a huge help to Joe Brady.
Yeah, and
unless his was terrible too.
So John Fox, I got corrected in the chat by Richard Rush, who said that John Fox has actually coached in 2 Super Bowls, which the FanDuel odds for the Buffalo Bills to make the Super Bowl right now is plus 1,200. So if you're in Vegas, that might be worth putting $100 on. Just saying. Go ahead.
Hopefully March I'll be back out in Vegas. When are you going back out for work?
At the latest, first week in June for Identiverse will be when I will be there. So latest, but I might be there before that. I got a lot of West trips this year. Obviously, coming to Arizona next week, San Francisco in March. And then Vegas in June. I got a bunch of West trips. What?
Well, how about all the Bills games coming west? Right? I think we have the Rams. I think we have the Raiders. I'm not that
far out yet in my calendar. So going back through just some of these hires, offensive coordinator Pete Carmichael, of which Joe Brady is going to continue to call the plays. And I don't know if I should just go through these fast or if I should stop when I find something interesting, but there I find something interesting. So 2 things about Joe Brady calling plays. I believe Carmichael has been in the system before where he has done this very thing, been the offensive coordinator, somebody else has called plays. The thing for me about it is the difficulty in a head coach to call offensive plays or defensive plays. Sean McDermott was good at it. We know that because he had done it throughout his tenure here in Buffalo from a defensive standpoint. But Joe Brady was on the sideline for the beginning of his kind of offensive coordinator career with Buffalo and then moved up to the booth. So it's 2 changes. Number 1, he's got to handle everything about the game, everything that's going on from a CEO standpoint. And now he's going to continue to call plays, but also from the sideline, which is a very different view. Curious as to your thoughts just about that.
Well, I think, we talk about Joe Brady calling the plays, but I think there's going to be a hell of a lot of discussion between series. There's going to be probably a lot of discussion before the game, based on the type of defense that comes out, if it's what we expected, if it's not, if they're doing something a little bit unusual.
Right.
And I think what pains me about this, and this is why you have John Fox, because in order for Joe Brady to continue calling the plays, he's more or less going to have to dedicate not dissimilar type of hours that he did as an offensive coordinator. At least 75% of that same time.
Right.
And he'll be working directly with Carmichael. So there'll be a general understanding there, and they'll be reading off the same card. And it actually, I think it's a little bit cumbersome. I don't love it, especially for a young guy. There's no experience in it. We're not talking about the Kansas City Chiefs, right? So it could backfire enormously, but we wouldn't really even know if it does.
Right.
We look at some of the boneheaded plays that Joe Brady has called over the past season. If I see another freaking, end around or whatever the hell you want to call that play, I'm going to pull the last of my hair out. But they'll be working together, and then I think as the upside. Okay, so now I'm going to give you the upside. The upside is 2 minds, 2 brains, 4 eyes, reading and looking at the same thing. And instead of operating in a vacuum and being the only guy in charge, you have somebody who might have a different insight than you.
Right.
Now, with respect to, what are you going to call on 1st and 10 at the 40-yard line? What are you going to call on 3rd and 8 inside your own 30 or, on the plus 30? We don't do a lot of changes at the line anyway.
Right.
So the call that Joe Brady makes from the top is before the defense lines up anyway. It's an expectation of what defense they're going to run in this situation, because we've used machine learning, AI, advanced analytics, and we've funneled that all into a big fat play sheet. And you're like, okay, we're at the 40 going in. It's 3rd and 8. These are the likely defenses, and these are the plays we've decided we would call against them.
Gotcha.
And so you come up to the line of scrimmage. It's not the right look. Are we going to be an audible team? I don't know. And I would like for us to be a little bit more fluid on the play call.
The question is, John, before you go into Anchor Bar there in Tucson, do you have like have you used AI and like experience and like done some research to decide like I'm going to do one of these 3 things, and then when you get through the door, do you call an audible by chance?
Oh, it's always an audible with me, Joe. You've known me long enough, right? I just kind of show up and I say, you know what? Just bring me wings. I want to try them all. So if I haven't had them, I definitely want to try them. So they just had the grand opening. I showed up for it, with the new owner, Doug Perry. The team from Buffalo came out, Michelle and Mark, and, we had a really nice time, nice ceremony. And I think that the Anchor Bar Tucson is really getting its legs right now. And the food is excellent. The wings are great. The pizza is getting better every time I'm there. The beef on weck, I'm not going to lie, Joe. When I went to the opening, it was kind of an open kind of buffet. I may or may not have left with my weight in beef on weck out the door. I make no apologies, but I'm telling you, the Anchor Bar, and there's a new one coming online in Kissimmee, Florida. That will be opening soon. Raleigh's open now. Frisco's open. So that's going to make like 18 or 19. And if you don't have an Anchor Bar near you that you can walk through the door and order your favorite wings and pizza, you can order the sauce and you can enjoy your wings at home. They ship nationwide, but get your butt to Buffalo. Go to a Bills game. Heck, go to a Bison's game. Heck, go to a Sabres game. But stop off at the Anchor Bar and have the original Anchor Bar chicken wings.
Absolutely love it. Getting back into coaching as far as filling out the staff. Running backs coach remain the same. Oh, no, I missed quarterback coach. Went from Ronald Curry to Bo Hardigree. And if any of these names that you know or have a connection to or have some experience with, not experience, but you know what I'm saying, like from college or whatever, just stop me. Running backs coach Kelly Skipper remains the same, which I'm sure that Himbo loves that. James Cook, that is. Wide receiver coach goes from Adam Henry to Drew Terrell. Tight ends coach Rob Boris stays with the team. Offensive line coach Aaron Cromer has retired from football, and actually my flight out to LA a couple weeks ago when Beth and I went out to LA, which you were in LA as well, we actually flew out with Aaron and his wife and got to talk to him for a couple of minutes, and they're really excited to be kind of sailing off into the sunset, as much as we're sad to see them go. Pat Meyer was hired as the offensive line coach. Austin Gund was expected to get that spot. I heard a lot of people talk about the hope that Austin Gund would stay with the team, and it was kind of will only happen if he gets that job as the offensive line coach. He doesn't, still stays with the team. Thoughts?
Well, it's hard to get a job in the NFL, right? Sure. I mean, lots of guys that are quality, if a staff gets fired, they get picked up elsewhere. So, not many jobs come available, just like for players, right? You'd be shocked at how few players actually end up in the NFL from the amount that are seniors in college right now. So hard jobs to get. I like that. I like that Gund is still there. It's a continuity thing. People know him. It'll help. It'll help. The new offensive line coach understand personalities, which now are very important to manage. Right. Yes. So I think it's good. I have no issue with that. Pat Meyer and Austin's going to lean on him and vice versa. And I think, you've got a good offensive line, a solid offensive line. Now we just need a little bit more layer of offensive coordination over it.
Yep. Passing game specialist remains the same. Mark Lubbock and Chris Yankee, sorry, I mispronounced your name there, Chris, says that Rob Boris is also now the running game specialist, I believe is what he says. Running game coordinator. I think it's in there somewhere.
He's a tight ends coach.
Yeah.
Rob Boris and run game coordinator. I looked this one up a little bit, and that's an interesting call to me. I mean, he's got a lot of coaching experience in the NFL and in college. And I think it's, he's got offensive coordinator experience. So when he was with the Rams, he might've had a heavier hand in the run game than most people think about an O coordinator being just in the passing game. I think it's great that it's separate from the offensive line a little bit. So you don't have either one of the O-line coaches as the run game coordinator, because I think they see things a little bit differently, especially having a better understanding for the abilities of their tight ends, Hawes and Kincaid and Knox and the like.
Very good. And then also staying with the team, offensive quality control coach Kyle Shermer is staying with the team. Offensive quality assistant DJ Mangus is staying with the team. As everybody already knows, former Buffalo Bill Jim Leonard is now the defensive coordinator for the Bills. And rumor has it, I don't know if it's been confirmed or if it's been hinted at or inferred, but the Buffalo Bills look to be moving from a 3-4 or from a 4-3 nickel 4-2 to a 3-4, which to me, I don't like that idea. That's just me. We watched Rex Ryan do it with a Jim Schwartz wide 9-4-3 that was one of the most dominant defenses in the NFL. And it was like, I know what I'm doing. I'm the expert. I can make anything work, and I'm a genius, and blah, 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 and completely destroyed that defense. I'm not saying that Jim Leonard's going to destroy the defense. We just don't have the personnel to line up for a 3-4. Thoughts in that transition? Because I'm nervous.
So your last comment made the most sense to anybody, right? So if you're going to transition to that, your ends are going to be different kind of guys.
Correct.
So we already have two defensive ends that play very stout run game, tight techniques. So between Rousseau
and Bosa,
Rousseau and Epinesa plays the run pretty damn well. Right. So, and you say you didn't see it executed well in Buffalo, but the freaking Pittsburgh Steelers have been running a variation of it for years.
No, they've got the personnel. I mean, they've got Cam Hayward in the middle, right. TJ Watt. I mean, they've got the players for it.
And that's part two of my discussion, right? So they're going to have to go. Leonard's going to have to look at this defensive roster and then look at free agency and decide, is he going to be like a Bill Belichick type of coach, where if we're going to let some of these older guys go and we're going to backfill to my scheme, we're not pulling some of these guys out of the top 50 or even top 75 of free agency. Right. We're going to have to look for specific body types. Right. And then that puts into play, where does that leave Milano and Bosa?
And so Terrell Bernard, who just had his salary for 2026 guaranteed last week.
Right. So
I don't disagree with what you're saying. I'm not saying it cannot be done. What my problem is this Bills team is already 15 million over the cap, and I know the cap can be massaged. They've got Connor McGovern up for a new contract. They've got David Edwards up for a new contract. They've got players aging out. We've seen the Bills go heavy defense in many drafts. I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying that I can't be surprised. I'm not saying that I can't be wrong. I just don't know how we get there from here. Like, do we have a true nose on this team? Ed Oliver's not a true nose, right? Deanne Walker, is Deanne Walker a true nose? I don't know.
I think Deion's played a hell of a lot of football across the board last year, and if anybody can do it in that front, I look to him to be able to do that. Ed Oliver could certainly play a 4-eye. He could play an edge, and then that gives you a stand-up guy, right? You might have at 4 techniques, Rousseau and Oliver with Epinesa in the stand-up position, or you slide it the other way. And then, Joe, just because it's that personnel doesn't mean that you can't swap out. And, if Hoyt is back, and I don't know that he will be, then you have athletes that can play in that, intermediary space, which is what you really have to have with this type of defense.
So, I mean, Richard Rush says he's excited to see Ed Oliver play as a defensive end. Now, clearly there are some guys that, size-wise, because of the way that Sean McDermott built his team, that could interchange. I feel like AJ Epinesa is too small to play end in a 3-4 defense. I could be wrong. Ed Oliver, though, may fit that role as well as some of the other players that the Bills have drafted. I don't know what you do with Dorian Williams. You already talked about Matt Milano, Terrell Bernard, Joe Andreessen, who is a great special teams player for us, as is Dorian Williams. I'm just not sure. I don't want to get stuck here, which we can get stuck here.
We are stuck because it's the great unknown.
Right.
I think what is going to shape the personnel and the defense that they run is going to have to be what happens in free agency. If we can find anybody that fits a role, because you really only need 1.5 guys to fill those roles to put that defense into play.
Right.
And if you look at a 4-3 or a 4-2 that you're so used to. What we've kind of suffered with was not having two great defensive tackles on the field at a time, not two guys that can produce like Detroit has. So that has been, I think, the biggest challenge to our defense, the interior D line. Ed Oliver's had so many injuries over the past couple seasons.
Mm-hmm.
We've lost him for way too long. And then the problem was he was our number one interior defensive lineman. And now we're just kind of like, oh my God, we got Jordan Phillips back.
I'll stop there. The defensive line coach, the new defensive line coach is Terrence Jamison.
Yeah, so let's stop on Terrence Jamison for a second, because I really like, number one, the youth, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he's my age. Actually, he's not. I'm just kidding. He's a good 20 years younger than I am, 18 years younger than I am. So that puts him in his 30s somewhere. But he's got he's been in the college game. And I think that the college game is kind of like the crucible for the NFL insofar as developing philosophies on either side of the ball, and also for technique-driven kind of work, right? So you bring a guy in who's definitely big on drill work. You can't be a college coach unless you're drilling the living hell out of the people. Now, you don't get that kind of time in the NFL to drill a lot, but what you can do is you can coach in the film room, and you can have a variety of drills that you are working in a very short period of time in practice, more in training camp, but a little less during practice when the season starts. I like the youngness. I like the energy. Illinois' defensive front was really, really very good over the past few years. I think they probably have 2 or 3 guys that'll be in the NFL next year off of their over the next couple of years from that defensive line. And Purdue, Air Force, Texas Tech, Florida Atlantic, California. So the guy's been around. He's learned a lot. I think he's going to be, I think that's a great addition.
Yeah. I typed in the comment section ACL because for some reason I thought my brain ACL was short for Achilles. I meant Achilles to the comment section. So I literally typed ACL because you and I were talking when I was typing it. So I meant Achilles. It was an Achilles rupture for Michael Hoyt, which is a year plus before he'll be back to kind of 100%. I also want people to know, and you to know as well, I don't have a love for the 4-3. I don't have a love for the 3-4. Could care less either way. We obviously need to get much better on the defensive line. This defensive line has been a problem throughout all of Sean McDermott's tenure. You go back, the best edge rusher that he had was Floyd, right? So they need to be better. They can be better. There's just an aspect of where we are currently, and this, I just don't know how you pivot to a 3-4, even a hybrid 3-4 this fast in one offseason cap situation.
Well, I could tell you how, Joe. I mean, these coaches are organized, right? They understand their philosophy. They deliver it properly. They get buy-in, right? Athletes are athletes, right? So if you get the right guys for those positions, they're going to want to succeed. I'm sure there's guys playing out of position right now. I mean, we have one that we drafted in the second round last year who looks like I'm not sure where he thinks he wants to play. And it's been kind of a, head scratcher. We have a number of those head scratchers, right? We had one with Kyrie Elam too.
Yeah.
So TJ Sanders is a guy that's like, where do I belong? Right. Yep. And then where does Dwayne Carter end up?
Carter was one I was just going to say. Yep.
Right. So one of those two guys, and I love Dwayne. Every time I see him, he and I, he's just such a great guy. He's going to be battling with TJ for probably a 4-eye technique. But you really want to hammer those guards and tackles in that type of front. You want to cause
back up 4-eye. Please tell us what a 4-eye is.
So if you are head up on me as a tackle, as a defensive end, you could say it's a 0. That's when you're lined up like this on the center, right?
Yep.
So you're in a 4 if you're head up. A 4-eye is on the inside. A 5 is a loose. A 6 is wider. And then it goes 7. And then you'd think it would be 8 next, but it's actually 9. None of it makes any sense. The guy that came up with the whole scheme is still drunk. So
playing golf somewhere.
He just sits back and he's like, I love what I did to these people. So a 4-eye, you're just on the inside eyeball of the tackle. And what it's supposed to do is, depending on your type of linebacker play and edge play, you're supposed to confuse and you're supposed to really kind of put guys into challenging combination blocks, right? So you got a 4-eye. Okay, the tackle can't leave that 4-eye for a guy at width. He can't leave the guard, so he's here. So that the guy coming off the edge, who's he pressing on? Is it a tight end? So there's the different ways you run it depending on who you're playing that week.
Gotcha. Excited to see the defense get better. I just have concerns over, like a super down year for the defense, and the Bills being like, well, we did the best we could trying to make the change from a 4-3 to a 3-4. We just gave up a lot of points. It's like, yeah, and we missed the playoffs. Great. Maybe we should have stuck with.
Oh, man. Joe, so let's just cut the pod right now and light this thing on fire.
Exactly.
Listen,
go ahead.
You're right in your concern. But the two biggest problems with this defense has been interior defensive line and injuries.
Yes.
That's the two biggest things. We don't get enough production, enough stoutness out of our interior defensive line, which in turn doesn't help us get pressure on the edges. Now, I would say the third issue is probably just we don't have, other than Bosa, we don't have a pure pass rusher on that roster.
Yeah, there's just a lot of, when I think through it, like, yeah. So anyways, I'm interested in the next name. So just because I believe no, maybe not. Bobby April. So outside linebackers coach Bobby April, he was a former coach for the Bills, but you were not here back then, right? So
no, but I know his father. His father coached the Arizona Wildcats before I got there, and his father coached in the collegiate ranks forever. It's a football family. I mean, Gotcha. And a lot of people say, well, Bobby April III is probably shorter than Joe Miller. How's that guy coaching linebackers? It's the same thing. You see, a lot of basketball coaches who never played the game, never left the bench, end up becoming really great players because they've watched thousands of hours of film, thousands of hours of practice. They understand the game.
Yeah.
And, a lot of people would argue, well, former players should coach. Got to be honest with you, man. I mean, I think I would be a good coach, but I think it would wear me out. I mean, it takes a special kind of nut job to be a football coach.
Well, I would like to just add that Bobby Babich is about shoulder height to Joe Miller. So, and he was the defensive coordinator for the Bills last year. But inside linebackers coach John Egerwagu, can't pronounce that one.
That works.
Cornerbacks coach Jay Valai, secondary Joe Dana, defensive assistant Alvin Vaughn, defensive quality control Craig Robertson, assistant special teams coach Turner West, and then I didn't have the actual special teams coach, which is now Jeff Rogers, the special teams coordinator. It's odd that he isn't on this list. Super strange. But those are the current coaches. Excited about John Fox. Before we go, the most bizarre thing I ever saw and it includes Greg Williams. I remember, so my seats are on the visitor's sideline for the Buffalo Bills. My new ones are as well. In the old stadium, they were on the visitor's sideline. And I remember specifically the Bills were playing the Jets. Adam Gase was the head coach of the Jets at the time. And crackhead, whatever. Who knows? That dude just lives in La La Land, which he's back in the NFL all of a sudden, which is interesting after, I think, a 4 or 5 year hiatus. Getting back to Joe Brady being the offensive coordinator, not the offensive coordinator, the head coach, calling plays, offensive guru. When you look at Andy Reid types, when you look at guys that have been very successful, Sean McVay, guys that are very successful, the dude up in Matt LaFleur in Green Bay, successful head coaches that call plays as well, and their involvement, Sean Payton, in the entire game, defensively, special teams, everything that's going on. And you mentioned they'll be talking about things like while the defense is on the field and blah, 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 blah. I watched Adam Gase coach on the sidelines for the Jets in a football game against the Buffalo Bills. And when the offense was on the field, he was on the side, like on the edge of the white paint, walking around in the field like all head coaches do, right? So that's literally, he was head coaching, but calling plays at the same time. Every time the defense was on the field, John, he would drift back into the crowd and would not talk to anybody. And Greg Williams was his defensive coordinator. He would then be the person out on the edge of the paint, like roaming up and down the sideline while the defense was on the field. It was the most bizarre thing. Like nobody would even talk to him. He would just drift back into the crowd of players behind them, 3 rows of players in front of him watching the football game. And he was just like looking at the ground, kicking the grass. I've never seen anything like it. I was like, that's a head coach of the NFL right there. Strange.
That means you and I got a shot, Joe. Everybody's different, right? And look, just to, closing it down with Joe Brady doing this job, I think, he'll probably be a guy that's roaming the sideline, but the offensive staff upstairs is going to be running through, in his ear while he's watching the game, and he's going to be with the defensive coordinator. So it's a lot to juggle. There's no question about it, but other guys have done it. We just hope that Joe Brady's that special and he can do it too.
Yep. Very good. Awesome. So coming up this week on the Overreaction Sports Network, the Off Tackle with John Fina show returns tomorrow. I believe On the Beat is going to go to every other week, just so we can keep topics fresh. I don't want to repeat topics with beat reporters if we have them on every single month or every single Tuesday. And then, of course, Wednesday, 7 days to Sunday with Jerry Ostrowski and Zig Fracassi. And don't forget about the walkthrough that's still happening every Saturday morning with Anthony Marino. John Fina, anything else before I get us out of here?
No, I just, it's a fun time of the year. We had that dead period when the Bills lost, and now it's kind of amping up. Get into your computer, start looking at where the Bills are in the draft, and, start looking around, see the players that you'd like to see come to Buffalo. It's fun.
It is fun. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning into the Overreaction Buffalo Sports Show on the Overreaction Sports Network presented by FanDuel. So good to have every single one of you join us. Please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button on the way out. Never miss a show. But for me, for John, for Jerry, for all of us here at Overreaction, we appreciate you guys and love you. Go Bills.
Go Mimi. Go Lewis.
Go Bills.